Well, I am having difficulty reaching Alan. Um, I am going to try to come up with something. Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies for the technical difficulties, and we will be back as soon as we can. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to assume that Alan is not going to be able to get back on, and I am going to have a polite conversation with Mr. Tremper in the meantime. Steven, you're live. You want to unmute yourself? All right, I apologize about the technical difficulties, but being the next presenter and in attendance, you and I are free to have a trading conversation to fill the time slot. Do you have any charts, anything? Do you want to talk politely about some trading related stuff?
I can share the screen, and do you see my mouse?
I do. I see your mouse and today's date. I see the splash screen to your presentation.
As you should. So that's what I was going to present in a half an hour. I suppose I could certainly jump ahead if you'd like, or I don't know what you want to do, just impromptu go through some things that I have. Basically, this presentation was going to be about, creating discipline, the three things that, I feel is important anyway. And again, without going through my orientation of who I am, I'm just one of you guys, I'm just a trader. I was a fireman, and on my off days, I started doing this because my wife said it would be, I could be a millionaire in 2 weeks. And so needless to say, I'm still working on that. But needless to say, a lot of these tools have been created because of me and the issues that I've had. So discipline manager being, the first thing, and not the oldest one that I had, but needless to say, it's probably the most common. And that's how I got involved with Ninja. And that was to, they asked me to be a vendor because there was people that apparently had the same problem I did. And if anybody's had the problem of, fear of missing out or FEMO or any of those kind of things, then you probably can relate. And that was an issue. And so I had to kind of get over that. And I think I have. Well, I can't say that. I know for a fact that I still have my problems. And then the other thing that we had is trade. And, I've come up with, I just get so fed up with, looking at screens all day long. It's I can't how many countless hours. And of course, when you go to the restroom or go get a cup of coffee, you come back and you've missed it. You've been waiting for it for hours. It just isn't moving. So you're like, oh, I'm gonna get some coffee. You come back and it moved. And it's like, you just get aggravated. Then you chase and oh, guys, it's just a nightmare. That's why I can't trade ES. It's just like watching paint dry, if you ask me. I've more adrenaline rush, so I need the NASDAQ. In any event, then it came that I, needed to monitor, what you're doing. You just can't haphazardly just go, in and out all the time. The brokers love that. But so that's how this presentation kind of be, basically just creating the discipline and your rules in essence, and then setting up your trade. And what I have is I had trade set up, or, logic, if you will, rules. And then I'm like, there's got to be a way to automate this because I can't, just sit in front of a screen. The whole purpose is getting away. So that's still a work in progress. There's a lot to it. This whole AI business is just, I've tried all kinds of, bots, robots, algorithms, whatever you want to call them. And it's just, there's just so many nuances and all the conditions. You could have a bot that trades a certain position and it will, win all kinds of money. You could take the same logic and it loses. So what's different? The logic is the same. It's not going to take a trade if this doesn't do that. And so you have one winner and one loser. Well, what's changed? The only thing that's changed is the market because your logic hasn't changed. And so it's got to be dynamic. And that's where, kind of Helix came into. And because I had one indicator that was called entry zones, where I had a zone on the screen and it would kind of show me this is the area. If other rules agree, then this is the kind of area that I'm looking for. And then I had another one, which trade management, because I got tired of moving things around and because it's always changing. So I had a strategy, it was trade management. And when I married the two of those together to go towards this algo so I can, get away from trading, and I married them together. And so we're looking for a name, and the name Helix came about, and that's hence Helix. So, and since then we've added more things. So it's, Helix on steroids, I guess, but needless to say. And then the latest thing was, you've got to monitor it. And I've had I call it the status box. I've had that for, a couple of years, I guess. But ever since these prop firms have come to light, the hedge funds and whatnot, we could have a conversation on that if you want about this latest thing that's going on. But there's got to be a way to monitor your drawdown, because especially with your unrealized P&Ls, especially with NASDAQ, which will go way up, and then you have to give it some room to grow, and it comes down and pops you out. Well, it counts that. And so you've really got to monitor your margin or drawdown. Some people call it different things, but it's the same thing. You've got to monitor that. And so I just added a component, a line item into the current status box that I had, not knowing that it would be a big undertaking. I thought it would be simple. But needless to say, months later and mucho dineros later, it finally kind of got done. There's still some tweaks that we're still working on. But anyway, so that's what came. So that's basically how I trade. You set your rules, what you're going to do and how you're going to handle it. And then you trade based on, those rules and what your setups, etc. And then you monitor your status. And it's pretty much that. So that's this presentation. I can kind of get started on it and be slower and, slow it down a little bit if I want me to fill up a little time for the next presenter. You kind of call a shot on that, Rob.
Let me thank Alan for being here. Apologize for the tech difficulties we had. If anyone would like to, see the DMIC 2059 in action or visit the website, it's dmic2059.com. We hope Alan is able to solve his technical difficulties, and we hope he has a great weekend and that we get to see him again. But in essence of moving on, Steve, I would like to offer you the extra time. I told everybody at the beginning of the show we had a great lineup, and you are obviously no exception, being in the fire service for 40 plus years, trading futures on his days off. He has a great presentation full of brand new cutting edge material. Steve is best known for the Discipline Manager on Ninja Trader. Ladies and gentlemen, create discipline, trade, monitor status is Mr. Steven Tremper of Tremper.com. Welcome to Trader's Corner, Steve, and go ahead and proceed with your presentation.
Okay, thanks, Rob, for the kind words there. So I want to, give you, say thanks and give the opportunity to introduce these three things I just talked about: the Discipline Manager, and Helix is the trade part of it, and then the status box, which is the status part of it. They're basically three tools that I've created as, just from my time, the things that I need. All of my tools that I have on here are things that I've done for me, things that I've struggled with to overcome, and I'm just passing them on. A lot of things on my side are free. Even the community, under the community tab, you'll have we have the trade room, and actually it's really not a trade room. We don't call out trades or anything. We're just basically, if anything, it's more of a boiler room. We're just a bunch of, guys are sitting there, and we're just waiting for the market, and we talk back and forth about, what it's, what do we think's happening, and obviously it's quiet if it's busy, and we just get different opinions, and we're just talking because it's a lonely game. I'm down in the basement, the trade cave, so it's lonely down here. I don't have any windows, and but it's fun to have be attached to other people, like-minded people, and be able to overcome that. So I've shared a lot of this stuff, and then we have the social hour in the aftermarket. So if anybody wants to talk, and I try to use that for technical support. If anybody has any questions, we could share screens, and we can help each other out. And I've called on other people we have the Skype traders group, and there's other people in there and that's pretty much 24/7. I'm not in there all the time, but somebody's in there. And I can't tell you the times that we've helped each other with, how do you do this, how do you do that, or I'm having issues with this, that, and the other. So basically, it's kind of turned into a technical support help group, which I'm thankful for, because it helped me just yesterday actually with my Gmail, which has nothing to do with trading. In any event, so today's summary, I just go over the we're gonna, as I mentioned earlier, we're gonna be talking about the discipline manager, and it just mandates enforcement of your trade rules. Everybody has rules, but as we're all human, rules are meant to be broken, and this just kind of puts a little pressure on that. And then there's Helix, which I talked about, and that's the trades, and that's the manual or automatic. Manual is how I trade right now. I couldn't imagine going back to clicking buttons the way I used to do it. Now it's just kind of all set in stone. Once I click go, it's pretty much takes it. And, of course, you always monitor and whatnot, but you can move your stops and targets, etc. But needless to say, it's all predefined, if you will. And then what I'm currently working on now, and there are some that are done currently, some setups. There's multiple setups in there, but the one that I'm working on right now is just one of the setups, and that's my favorite, and that's what I'm working on. It's not done yet, but it's coming. There are a couple other setups in there, and in the settings, you just get to pick the setup that you want to run, and then you could tweak your own. It's a lot of settings in there. I'll go over that briefly. Now, these three indicators, and then the status box, obviously, the last one I just talked about, as far as up-to-date status of where you're at as far as your numbers and your money. You gotta protect that, especially with drawdowns and these funding firms that have come into light. But these three tools, I've had a webinar on the Discipline Manager and Helix. I never did one on Status Box. And what I'm trying to do is just combine them. So I went into the presentations and I've spliced and edited some different screenshots. So I'm going to go through all of these to kind of make use of my time, and so I'm going to just touch on it quickly. So if there's any questions, by all means, we can go back at the end. But this is just more of a brief overview, and there's trials on there, and so you can download, play. But Discipline Manager has a lot of settings. Helix has a lot of settings. Status Box kind of easy, but the other two are difficult, and so there is some learning curve there, and you don't have to be a coder or anything, but you have to kind of know what you're looking to do, and I'm there to help you. So without further ado, as you mentioned earlier, I'm just me. I'm the CEO. I do marketing. I do this, do that, do technical support. I even clean my own office. So I'm everything here. Been in the fire service 30 years. Retired in 2019. I started learning prior to that, my off days, and then basically when I retired, I basically live in the basement. And now I just trade futures, and I've played around with options and forex and all that, and after failing with all those, I just found futures to be more my style, if you will. So that I don't foresee going off that and moving around. I still have an options account, and I still have a forex account, but I really don't do anything with it. And I still struggle with the psychological side of, the emotional part of it, especially when it comes to money. So, I mean, you're not alone, and that's where this is all has come to be. And actually, that's how, Discipline Manager was originally started, because I just needed, some help. So I'm not going to go through all these, because at the beginning of the video, if you've already seen this earlier today, if you're been in the presentation, if you're watching on the video, you're going to get it. But long and short of it, you can pause the video and read all this that is required by the government. But actually, with Discipline Manager, if anything, it stops you from trading. So I really don't even need to do disclaimers or anything, because it doesn't take any trades. If anything, it stops you from taking trades. And the way I look at it is, the Discipline Manager is, you got to think of your company as you are the boss. You're the CEO of your trading business. And even if that's just you or your whole family, or however you've got it, it doesn't matter if you have $100 or $100 million. You are the CEO of this business, and everybody falls under you. So what you do as a CEO, you delegate your rules. You've come up with some rules, and you delegate the rule to your Discipline Manager. And the Discipline Manager is the one that's going to monitor your trading employee, whoever's trading for you. And in this case, 90% of you probably watching, you are the employee. So not only are you the boss, but you're the employee. And it really has to be a fine line between separating that. You really do have to separate that. So what I mean, though, is that let's say you're trading in the heat of the moment in the day and you get out of line as the employee. Well, the discipline manager has to come in and say, hey, I'm just having a bad day. Let's take a break. Let's get out. Let's stop it and come back tomorrow. Somebody needs to do that. And if your spouse is, trading with you, then that is one discipline manager that'll probably say stop, or take your profits and stop, or whatever the case may be. But then when all said and done, you look at your week on Friday or Saturday morning, or whenever you do it over the weekend, and you're in this quote unquote meeting, and you want to change the rules a little bit because you've evaluated some and you want to get in earlier, later, whatever it might be. You want to maybe give it a little bit more room, so you have to up your prices a little bit, or maybe you want to add a contract, etc. So you come up with these new rules, and then you give it again back to the discipline manager then for the employee to follow the following week. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to do it in the heat of the moment where you're under pressure and you just got back from getting your coffee and you missed the trade. Now you're chasing, and it just sets off. Or you get the infatuation. It's like how many times I've done this. I can't tell you how many times, and I'm sure you guys have too, is you win just a winning day. I mean, you just can't lose. It's like taking money from a baby. And so you're so confident, you're like, I've mastered this, I'm it. And then the next day you get smacked down and you're back into where you were. So the discipline manager cannot help you with your psychology, but it will help you with your discipline, and that will lead to a healthier psychology. I thought that phrase was a good one. So some of the setting, the rules, the discipline manager is designed to allow you to set up your own daily or weekly drawdown limits. And your goals too. So both your limits and how much you're willing to give up, and your ante, if you will, and then how much your goals are going to be. Now, if your drawdown limits are hit, and you're done for the day or the week, depending on which it might be, but you're done and you can't trade anymore. Now there are warnings on there, so if you prefer to have a warning, you can get a warning that pre that halt. And like the circuit breakers, that's how they come to be. So it's like 15 minutes. So you hit that warning, it'll pop up and say, you're done for 15 minutes. So go get some coffee. By that time, the trade, maybe, it cooled off a little bit. The trade has long, hopefully moved itself out of this area that it's giving you problems in. And now you could, look fresh and start all over. You still have that halt set there, but at least this way you're coming in with a new mindset. So once your daily or the weekly goal is hit, then one of two things can happen. You can continue to trade, but never giving back, more than whatever percentages you want to give back, or in a dollar amount fashion. Or if you say no, I want to be done, then you would say 0 in there. I don't want to trade anything. I'm not giving any percentage, so it's 0. So you're done. So if you try to take the next trade because you maybe just got popped out a little too easy, you get the thing saying, oh, you hit your goal, congratulations, and you go, yeah, but I want to finish this trade, and then you hit the button and it says no, you can't do it. So that all depends on your rules. And I'll go into the settings briefly here in just a second then. And that's what we call it. So if you do want to continue to trade, that's what we call our dynamic drawdown limit, and that's based on how much. So if you have $1,000 drawdown limit, $1,000 goal, and you've hit your goal now, so you made your $1,000, or micros if it's less than that, obviously. But let's say you hit your $1,000. What do you want to do at $1,000? You just want to be done with it, or do you want to continue to trade? So let's say you put 50% in there. Well, you'll be able to continue to trade until that 50%, which is $500, is breached. Once you breach that, well, then you're done. So at least you're not going, at least you're not ending the day on a total loss. And the same thing goes if you put 0 in, or if you put 100%. So you make $1,000 and you're willing to give all that back. So basically you give it all back and it stops you from trading. You basically had a scratch day. I might have had fun, but I ended up not doing so well. In any event, that's up to you. If you say 0 drawdown limit, then obviously you're done. It won't give you anything to draw down with. And then, as I said earlier, optional warning boxes are displayed that'll let you know when you breach something if you want the warnings. Okay, So here it's not an indicator. This is placed on your, it runs kind of in the background. If you want to pull it up, you can pull it up. You don't have to have it on there, but I kind of like to see the second half of the screen. It's a two-parter because they wouldn't fit on this monitor here. So in any event, right here, you can see this is your accounts. A lot of people don't realize that they could do multiple accounts, and you should. If you're, obviously you could set your rules for sim and you play around with it, or playback. If you want to set your rules for playback, you put your, select playback in there, and you play with your rules, and you take some losers, take some winners, and see what happens, and mess around with it. And once you've got your settings the way you feel are comfortable, then you could, record that as a default, and then go to the next, you could use this drop down and pull up your real account and then apply those rules to that account or accounts, depending. So this is what I was talking about, your drawdown warning. And if you don't want to have a warning, 9999 will just suffice that, and you'll just never hit it. Your halt is 1,000. Trailing stops, if you want to have that trailed up. So as your price goes up and ratchets up, then this $1,000 ratchets up with it. And if you don't have that checked, then you'll have $1,000 to play with. But if you hit your goal, which is down here, let's say it's $1,000. If you go to $999.99, you can come all the way back down. So basically $2,000 or $19.99, and you get popped out at that halt. But if it trails and you go to $9.99, you'll be out at a penny. So you could, that's a default on there. Daily, man, I don't know many people that use that. $9.99 will just kind of zero it out more or less. And then as I said earlier, goal. And here's your warning. So you've hit your goal, and now what do you want to do? Do you want to, in this case, you're willing to give back 75%. So you're willing to give, you'll end the day at $250 if you get halted out. But at $500, if you lose $500, now again, this is also based on commissions, and it's based on, it depends if it's based on realized when you closed or intertrade. There's some switches down there, right here, I think, right there. In any event, so you'll get a timeout warning at 50%. So you'll have a 15-minute, I call it a timeout because it's kind of like a kid, that's how I remember it. And then a goal too. So anytime you want to change a percentage, then you can change your goal. So now you've reached $1,500. So you've moved up, and now you're at $1,500. Well, you don't want to give back 75% of that. Now you're only willing to give back 25%. And you don't need a warning because you're going to monitor it. It's really not that much anyway. So in this scenario, you're just moving up, and those are the two levels. So the only rule of thumb would be is that if you want a new goal, your second goal, when you're ready to change your percentage, because if this goes up too high, you don't want to give back that big percentage. And then the same theory for weeklies. And then as I mentioned earlier, include unrealized, and that's kind of dangerous because that'll whip around, especially the NASDAQ. That'll pop you out intra-trade. And then you have your option if you lose a trade. Let's say your first contract comes off and you're losing. Does it want to take everything off, or do you want to leave that last run around with the hopes that you'll bail out? But you could end up losing more though too, so you got to watch that. The second part of the screen then, as we go down from here, is your stats. Now, if you want to, like I've done before, is I take this window and I just shrink it down. Really all I care about are these three. I want to see what my peak is and my balance, that kind of thing. And then you can set it as default. Obviously, if you have one account that's minis and another account that's micros, then obviously that's not going to work. But you could set that as default and change them. And if you want to export the file, if you want me to review it, I'm more than happy to. People send me it puts a little TXT file on your desktop, and you can send it to me, and I'll tell you what'll happen after you set your rules. And then you can decide if that's what you really want to happen or not. I'll tell you what's going to happen, and that may or may not be what you want. So anyway, in essence, that's what you're doing, is you're protecting yourself from with your personal trading manager. And you're the boss, you hire the manager, and then he manages the employee, which is you also. And with all the brokers and trading platform data feeds, not to mention the thousands of trade rooms, indicators, robotic, algorithms, et cetera, it just comes down to you've got to keep your most valued asset. Anybody know what that is? It's the almighty dollar. You've got to protect that. So moving into that now brings us then to Helix. So you've got your disciplines set up. You know how much money you're going to allocate for this play day, and you're ready now to set up some programs, so indicators and whatnot. So you've got your moving averages on, and you've got all this business, and you're ready to do the way you want to do it. And so Helix is, as I mentioned earlier, I have entry zone. It's an entry zone indicator, and the trade management strategy that we're married together, and that's how the name Helix, technically it would be a double helix, but I don't like the double part of it, so I just call it Helix. And so there is options for manual, and it's been like that all along. You know, in essence, manual is always going to be number one. It's always been number one, and now we're, you know, kind of moving into the auto. We're trying to take that picture and automate it, so you can go in the auto mode, and the options are still available for either way. The rules would be the same. The question is, do you want it to automatically do it, or do you want to do it manually? And at the beginning, you're obviously going to do it manually, but as you feel comfortable with the automatic mode, you can flick it to or automatic. Your trade management's all going to be the same. It's all the rules are the same. The only difference is how it gets executed. And once it's executed, then it manages your position based on the rules you prescribe in the trade. I call that the trade management, the stop settings, because there's numerous layers of stop settings that you can put your settings in there as far as how big and, you know, what you want to do, et cetera. You know, move to break even and all that business. So, well, here you go. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a 20-second video has got to be worth much more. And here's the status box real quick. Now this is timed off. Now this happened to be a day, this was May 30th. I took this video a while back ago because it was one of those beautiful days. I made the goal in 8 minutes. So I ended up going back on playback to record it for this video, or actually some other webinars too prior to this, but I still like this video. It's on my YouTube channel. In any event, so this is it. I use an Inzeranko. It happens to be 21.3. It's a NASDAQ. This is VWAP. And so this is what happens. So it's timed off right now, but at 9:30, whatever I have it set for, 9:35, I think, or whatever it is, I have it set for. It's going to go off, and 8 minutes later, you'll see this ratchet up, the realized P&L. It just ratchets up, and then it stops trading after $1,000. So I'm just going to get the video, and there's your picture right there. So this is what happens in the automatic. See, I've just activated it into the active mode, and now the timer's off, and now it's ready to go. And it follows my magic, you know, settings that I have in there, and it does what it does. And now obviously this is fast motion, but the bottom line is it's 1,040, and it said no more, I'm done. And that was all done in 8 seconds, but that's fast forward. Actually, it was 8 minutes. It was 20 seconds, but it represents 8 minutes. So, you know, that's here. I'll play it one more time. So it's paused right here in manual mode. I switched to auto mode, and I switched to pause off. And now I'm just waiting for the timer to shut off. There it does. It follows the logic that I have in there. It does what it does, and then it stops at the predetermined level. And that's pretty much about it. So I love that video. So there's the picture. That's the Helix, and there's the two versions as far as the, you know, auto mode and whatnot. So switch over that. There we go. So as I mentioned earlier in the settings, though, there's you know, numeric groups that came from the entry zones, the numeric groups. And when I say about that, it's, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of group 1, group 2, group 3. That gives you settings based on what your chart is going to display, right? EMAs, your entry zones, where, colors, you know, any audible options that you want, you know, plots, and you have all kinds of choices as far as what the screen and the indicators. If you want to put some indicators on there, it does all that, you know, what's built in. And that will, you know, turn them on or turn them off, and then measure however you want to do. There's, you know, an array of things. Then the alpha groups going to, you know, like group A and group B's, talks about the trade management. That's the stop management part of it, the quantities, and, you know, your target stops, etc., and trailings, etc., whatever you want in there. And then the buttons that you saw down there just determine the auto mode, manual mode, and then if you want a dedicated direction, you could do that too. And then obviously pause if you're going to go away, or You just know news, there might be some news, so you just hit pause for a few minutes and then, unpause it when it settles down. So that's those groups. So like in the first numeric groups, the EMAs, you have some choice. There's a total of 4 EMA combinations in there that could be required. Now, what I say can be required, you can turn them on, turn them off, and you could set them for whatever EMAs you want. You can see here that this is EMA 1, EMA 2, EMA 3, EMA 4, and then VWAP I have on also, which is another switch. But anyway, and then I have also the high of the day, a little shark teeth I call it. That's the high of the day. So you could turn all those on, all those off, and there's no trade zones around all of those. If you don't like trading around those areas for different strategy, there's one strategy in there that does not trade into the high or the low of the day. So it'll mandate that and won't trade if need be. It also has spreads in there. So for instance, if these spreads are getting too tight here, you can see they're just too tight. And if that doesn't meet your rule, it's not going to take any automatic trades. Now you can do whatever you want in the manual mode, which we're in manual right now. But if in the auto mode, if you want to say, no, I don't want to take that if it's a spread. On the other hand, you could say, oh, this is just too far, for me, there's a minimum and maximum distance of spreads. You could say, too far, I wanted to retrace a little bit. The other ones, as I mentioned, was the no trade zones. It's this one down here. I have that construction orange. And again, you can change colors and all that. But this is for VWAP. There's one around. That's just an accident waiting to happen around that. Then there's the big one here is EMA 4, which is going to be your biggest one. I don't know what this is right now. I don't even remember. And then the high and the low day. If you have them on, which these two are not on, but if you did have them on, they would paint this construction orange. And anytime the price got in there, it's not going to do it in the auto mode. In manual mode, you can do what you want, but in the auto mode, it's just not going to take it if it can't do it. If it can't, it's just getting too close to it. So those are all things that we've just had to program in there. On the alpha side of it, the entry trigger, these are the actual triggers. You have your quantities in there and whatnot. So here's the entry trigger. And right, for instance, here, and this is the manual mode here, and I've clicked on there. It's an active, and I said the bar active, so the up bar. So what it's doing is it's waiting for an up bar, and it'll take me in. And you'll have offsets depending on what your parameters are. If you want them at all, or just as soon as it breaches, it could just go in, market order, whatever you have in there. But the point of it is that so it's going up, like I want to continue this up, but only on a pullback. So you can even click it down here. Let's say it breaches the high of the day, and you saw up bar, and it's just waiting for the down bar. Well, now it's got the down bar, and it will create the entry trigger, and it'll chase it down. So if it comes down until you turn it off anyway, or until it trips. So it comes down, it's chasing. All of a sudden you get an up bar, boom, you're in. So it'll just chase it automatically or until you turn it off. Once you turn it off, once it trips, then it'll turn off for the next time, which will be a manual push button. So that's it. Yeah, so once price breaches that entry trigger, then the order is placed based on whatever rules you have inside. The alpha group, this is trade B, trade management. This is the big one. This is, there's a lot to do in here. This is just one, the pivot trailing stop is just one of the things that is in the trade management group. We obviously have move to break even, and you've got your, your ATM strategy type situations where, if it gets the 40 ticks, trail by 20 or, whatever it might be. But this one is a little bit more dynamic. And so this one happens to be set for 50. So basically it consists of 3 things. It needs so it's coming down in your direction here, and it needs to have a trigger of, and as I said, 50. So it has to breach 50 ticks, and then it has the next component is a resumption. It has to resume 50 ticks in the downward mass. So we don't know where that 50 ticks is, but then once it comes down, it's going to trip 50, and then it's going to move the stop. So let's say up the top, you're coming down here, it went 57 ticks, and it came down and met 50 ticks. And once it hit 50 ticks on the resumption, boom, the stop goes there. Then it goes down, 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 down. It hit 50 ticks or plus, in this case, 66 ticks. It went up there, and then it resumed 50 ticks, boom, that stop moved down to here. Higher highs, higher lows kind of thing. Then it comes down here, but you notice here it's not meeting that. It's not meeting, it went 49 ticks, so it didn't qualify, and it's not going to move that down there. So it's going to keep going, going, going. Now this, it meets it. So this went 83 ticks, and then it resumed 50. So this then jumped over to here, and now it just keeps stair-stepping down. Now, the other part of the trade management would be the, once it reaches so many ticks, I don't even know what this is right now, but once it reaches, however many points you're looking for, then you could tighten that up. You might not want it to be like that. There's 2 levels. You could make it pivot stops a little smaller. So now if you get a pullback of, say, maybe 20 ticks, and then a resumption of, say, 20 or 18 ticks or something like that, you want to protect yourself, so it'll move it down faster on a smaller retracement. And the other option you have in there is just ratcheting it down tick by tick by tick, like you're currently familiar with the ATM strategy. So this is just one of the few, and there's going to be more. I'm working on a dynamic stop, which if you check that, it will just, and regardless of what you have on any of the stop magic, it's only one direction. So if you have something turned on, but the stop is already moved here, it's not going to move it back. I don't think I want to do that. It's going to stay here, and if it qualifies to put it here, then it'll just move it down, but it just won't move it backwards. So that's the trade management part of it. Once your rules are created, there's the manual mode, and I think you saw it a little bit in the video here. Here's the auto mode. Right now it's paused because there's some news or whatever. Maybe you're not ready. You got coffee going. So you just pause it. You're ready to go. All you gotta do is click that button. And assuming the timer's not on, which it isn't. And then over here in the manual mode, it's ready to go. So all you have to do is push these buttons. You can do buy market, sell market, or you can do on the up bar or down bar. Whatever you want to do, just click it. And all the management that you've already predetermined is in there. All you're doing is waiting for this here. Now, if you have an offset, let's say you want to do a trigger. Let's say you want to do it on an up bar. So you click on an up bar, but your rules are, so here's a zone that you're looking at, but now you're in it. And so now you say up bar. All you're waiting for is an up bar. Now, once you've tripped and breached that up bar, then there's settings in there is what do you want to happen? You just want to get in, or do you want to have an offset, and have it come back a few ticks, or do you want to have an offset going the other way, saying, okay, we've tripped, and now I want a few more ticks. I want to see it go through. You're getting, confirmation costs money. So if you're going to wait a little bit to have it really push through, that's fine. But if one might not be in altogether, or 2, you'll get in, you just won't get in at that perfect spot that you kind of wanted to. So those are all things that you decide as the owner and the CEO of your trading business. That's what you need to figure out. The other latest thing that we have is what I call the chop box, and everybody kind of sees this. And so now it's just internally, it's just in there, and you can plot it. You can plot all the pivots in here if you want. If you don't want a cleaner, you can turn them off, doesn't matter. You can turn it on, turn it off, whatever, you can change the colors. But the point of it is it recognizes a chop box. And what we've looked at the RSI, the ATRs, the choppiness index, and all kinds of other things that we've played around with, but it all comes down to, basically pivots, and what it's doing. And so everybody's seen it. It just fiddle farts around there for a while. So we have a setting in there that if you're within a chop box zone, it will only take so many trades. Now that's right now being programmed right now, because that's one component still missing, but it's be done, probably within a couple days. But needless to say is that you could say, when you're inside of a chop box, only allow 1 trade per direction. So if it happens to be a long or happens to be a short, you're okay to do that, but only 1 time. So if you decide to go long right here and it just can't do it, then for whatever reason it gets stopped out, it won't do it again. It has to break and breach this area. Once it breaches this area, one way or the other, then it'll just resume back to its normal, whatever the settings are. Now, if there's no settings that happen to set up, then there's nothing to worry about. But I can't tell you how many times setups set up here. I mean, you and I aren't the only ones looking at this area. I guarantee you other people are looking at the area. That's why it's doing this. Whether they're trying to get out on a stop, whether they're trying to take a target, whether they're trying to get in, doesn't matter. We're all looking at the same area. So if your rules happen to be where it takes a, an up bar right here, it'll do it the one time, but unless you have your stop down here, I suppose, then you'll stay in it. But anyway, it'll only do it automatically. It'll only do it once or twice, or however many numbers you want to put in there. So how do you get Helix? Finishing up on this one, Helix, you just go to the download file. There's 10 free days on that. This is the version that we're working on right now. A lot of people that are using this new web version, this whole Trade-Evade business, these are the same versions. People are going to this because they have the number. Oh, it's a higher number, so I didn't get the higher number. Well, they're the same. They're the same thing. It's just that this is for signing in when you want to. Every time you launch NinjaTrader, you have to sign in to the dashboard. Your vendor or your license ID is no longer kept on your platform. It's kept on your dashboard. And on this version, the desktop version, it's kept on your license version is under your help on your control center. Regardless, the programs are identical. The only thing is that how you sign in. So if you're somebody who trades on your phone or as a CQG or something like that, then you want to use that version. I think you have to use that version because if you're trading with like Trade-Evade or something, you have to use that version. But if you're just trading like most of the people that I talk to are trading with the typical desktop, then this is what you need. You don't need to have that whole sign in and dashboard every time. When I click on my Ninja, it just opens up and I'm there. I don't have to go sign in anywhere because it's on my local computer, just kind of like the app. In any event, that's enough on that one. And then here is a little video if you want a little overview on it. Now here's the 20-second video that I just showed here. If you want to see it again, you can check it out. There's another video, short video, and just basic introduction. And then there's video there. And then if you go to that video, now this video, it'll take you to this page. And this just breaks it all out for you because there are a lot of settings on here. This is not, this is not really for the faint of heart. I mean, there's a lot of things in here that you have to, decide and figure out. It's not, if you think you're just going to turn it on and let it run, it's not going to happen. But this is a full video, it's like an hour and 50 minutes, but I've broken it down by the time. So when you click here, it just takes you to that area. So if you want to understand a little bit more about the higher time frame synchronization, click that, boom, it takes you to that section of the video. Now here I've added some video supplementals that are relating to this, the manual mode. So I put it in order. It's like right here is another supplemental that's on that pivot trailing stop that we talked about. So here's the trade management. If you want to learn about that, it's probably the most common. A and B. A is where the triggers are and how many quantities and your offsets, negatives or positives, etc. That's all the entry triggers and how you want it to trigger once it meets your criteria. And the trade management is how you want to handle it once you're in, and scale out or whatever, and then just extra stuff. So as I said, that's that was done back in 2022 on that video. So there's a lot more added. I really probably should do another video, but it just takes a while. I will do it eventually, but that's what social hours for, and there's all kinds of ways that we could do live technical support, versus this email and back and forth. The only problem is I do get a lot of inquiries from people who don't speak English, and I can mess around a little bit with the Google Translate, but sometimes that email might be best for that. But if you are, and there's also people that are from different countries that are bilingual, so don't be afraid to come in. There might be somebody, I'm guaranteed, there's some of you probably that will speak your language if you're coming from another country. Anyway, so this video was done a while ago, and I've added a group G, which I don't have on here at all, but group G is the setups. So each setup, and what I mean when I talk about a setup, it's the actual entry, what creates the entry. And so I have setups. I have setup 1, setup 2, setup 3 is the one I'm working on. I have setup 4. There's setup 9. We jumped to 9 for other reasons, but anyway, so there's different setups in there. So if let's say you've got a setup and it consists of moving average 1 crossing moving average 2, if it's a Tuesday at at noon, whatever the rules are, we could put those in as a setup. So if it's a Tuesday at noon and the moving average is crossed, boom, it'll go long or short or whatever rules are set up in there, and we can call that setup 8, setup 9. or not 9, but 10, 11, 22, it doesn't matter. We could call it a setup. So then when you go into all these settings, you can go into group G, which isn't here, and you can say, I want to run setup, 16 or whatever it might be. And that is going to trip on these conditions, whatever those conditions are. Then your rules are still the rules. Your trade managements are still going to be the trade management. Once you get in, how do you want to handle it? And those are already predefined here. And if you decide to do it manually, then you don't even need those setups. You can just hit go, and it's going to follow your management. But for the auto mode, it needs to know what your setup is. If you're doing it manually, you are the setup. You say go up or down, and the trade management then takes over. So anyway, enough on that. But that video's long, but it's if you want to go to a certain section, it's there for you. Then once you've got that going, the next thing is the status box. So now you've got your trades going, you've got your rules, you decided how much money you're going to kind of allocate to this play date, and now you've got your rules and Helix all set out. Or even if you're not even using Helix, let's say you're just doing your bot from wherever you got any of these other providers that are here, and they all have good material. So let's say you use one of those. You still want to manage your dollars. I mean, you got to manage it. So what the status box is just this tool that you saw here, and it just tells you what it is. It says how long you've been in this trade. You could turn any of these off. And then your ATM strategy. Now it comes from here. So the ATM strategy is letting you. So a lot of time I don't have this on because it just wastes too much space. So I have it plot up here. Now you can turn it off if you don't want to see it there, but you can have it there. And then your MAE and your MFE, all those statistical datas. And then this is for unrealized P&L. So your unrealized P&L, the reason why it's there is because let's say you're running this particular account. Let's say this is playback, and this is your playback account through your broker, and you're running NASDAQ on this chart, and you're running ES, and you're running crude, and those are in trades. And so the unrealized is going to show here. It may or may not, or it might be a combination of all that's going on in your account. That's the unrealized. The instrument account is going to be here. That's this particular instrument, which is NASDAQ, because it's on this screen. If you want to see what the instrument is on your ES chart, you'd put it on your ES chart, and so on and so on. So the instrument P&L is based on that. And then this is the new line, that AP, which is called your account peak, and that keeps track of how high your account has gone, because there's where your drawdown starts. So as you start going up and ratcheting up into your account, then you have your peak, and from there you've got your margin of how much you're allowed to play with. So with all these prop firms, it's very important to monitor your available margin. I call it drawdown, but it's the same thing, margin drawdown, because the computers, they don't tell you that. I mean, it's just too hard. Or you could do it. You can go sign into your other broker account and do the math on it and the calculation, but it just gets old, and it's hard to do. And I needed to see it, in my face. And not just this either. If you notice, I don't even have dollars on there because I don't even like it, because it doesn't show commissions. So it's not a true number. I've asked Ninja about doing it, and they've come back and said it's not planned right now. So in any event, there's no commissions in there. It doesn't tell you anything. This is based on commissions, assuming you have your commissions set up. You do have to set up commissions, because if you don't, then it's obviously not going to show it. But it's very important, especially with micros, very important that you have those commissions in there, because they ratchet up. And so that will give you a bigger difference. And that's based on the realized P&L. So you got your unrealized here, and if that gets realized, it'll jump down here to realized. But the account peak, you have your options of using unrealized or realized. Now I know it gets a little kind of confusing on what's what, but with all these prop firms, they all you have to know how they're calculating. And that's why it's so important here to know what this number is. So these, as I said, these can be turned off if you don't want to see any of them. Your spouse is coming in, so you might want to hide it or something, but whatever. But the ATM will show up, statistics, unrealized, the instrument, and then your accounts peak, more important. And as I said earlier, the values are going to show net P&L if the commissions are established. So that's the big one right there, and that's what's and if you're into statistics, it's going to show you what your statistics are for the day. Then getting started. So it's kind of easy. Download the file, and for the specific page that you're looking for, whether it be Discipline Manager or Helix, you have to go to each one of those pages, download the file and play with it. Turn it on, install it like you normally install anything, and then try it on. It's got an automatic free trial on it, and nothing's really needed. I don't need anything for the free trial. Once you decided, to go further past that, I do need a third-party license ID, which there's a little video. It's really easy to do. It's like a 1-minute video if you don't already know how to do it, but then it can be reset. And that's all we need to do for that. So you would just go to Tools, go to the webpage, obviously, Tremper.com, and then go to Tools. And under Tools, you'll see all the playthings that I have here. Now, some of these are like the targets on it. Some of these are free. The volume slivers free. I mean, you can look at them on your own. But anyway, these are the strategies. This is my first strategy I did. But you can go into, these are the 3 we're talking about. So you would go into those 3, and then once you get there, you would, of course, read all that stuff. If you want to receive updates on any one of them, I would suggest clicking up to receive emails. And this one is just going to give you specific to Discipline. I try to, I try to keep my emails to a very minimal, because I hate getting inundated with my inbox. So if there's an update or something specific to Discipline Manager, I would send that group that have opted into that. If you want to receive all emails, on all these indicators, then you can just go ahead and that. And anytime I send something out, it goes to all. But anyway, so getting here is 10-day trial, and then there's your file right there. Now, if you want to, go further, you just click on that button right there. And I can't. This is a picture, but you would just click on that button right there, and it opens up a subscription kind of thing. And then the Helix, same kind of thing. Here's the file. I showed you the screen already. You go in here. You can read some videos and learn about it a little bit more. You can go into here. If you want to understand some of this stuff, you can. If you're an A-type personality like I am. Status box, same thing. Here's your download file. 20. Then you go down to here. There's the overview video. And now, importantly, is you kind of watch this, because this changes. So anytime, again, for this one, this is to receive emails from the status box. So if you're interested in the status box, anytime I do an update, you want to come down here and find out what that update consists of. Obviously, this picture is taken a while ago. That's really about it. With all these rules, in place, and you've executed some trades, you've really got to keep a close eye on your available balance, and that's where the status box is coming from. And it doesn't matter who's bound. It doesn't matter if it's a prop firm or yours. If it's yours, it's even more important. But with all these prop firms, I had to shrink this page down because there's so many of them. They've all come to light. And for us, the best part, about competition is that we as traders get the benefit of that. And they're always battling and back and forth with discounts, etc. And so the discount code page is something that I started a long time ago, just to kind of keep everybody in the know on this. And they're constantly changing. All these firms are trying to compete for your business. So, and there's a lot of them, and you can't see it on here, but some I'll put on here, which I feel is very important, is realized or unrealized. And I'll say, what's their split? Everybody wants to know what the money is going to be, but I think it's more important to deal with realized or unrealized. And if you notice, there's only a few that are realized P&L. If you have any questions on what the difference is, you can go into the discount code tab, and this is an older. This is an older slide, you can see, but they're always changing. But if you want to receive emails for discount codes, you would click this one here. But if you're interested in, read my little take on that, and you'll understand the difference between realized and unrealized. And you have to know how your firm does it. Now with the your own personal account, through Ninja or whoever you have, AMP, wherever it might be, whatever you have available in your margin, whatever money you got in there, that's how much you're going to have to play with. But with these prop firms, you have limited, and it even tells you right here, realized, unrealized, realized, et cetera. And you kind of read that. So it's important that you have to be in the know as far as how they're calculating that money, because it's really important. And I've come to the realization that you need to you really watch out your size, especially with NASDAQ. And with these, if you're only gonna work with these, I deal with like a $50,000 account, so $2,500, and that's not a lot of money. So one contract is what because of the big swings, so the swings and the stops that are required. Anyway, so today what I'm doing is the discipline manager has been around for quite a while, and so that I charge a subscription. I don't like these. I never did, because I've bought in so many of them. They're sitting on the shelf somewhere, or on the shelf of my computer, I should say. I bought in so many indicators that I've used that I don't use, whatever the case is. But it's just gotten to be to the point where I don't even want to do it anymore. Thousands of dollars for these indicators, and just to try out in 7 or 10, 30 days or something like that. So I'm more of the added that your life is nothing more than a subscription. Your phone is a subscription, your car payment's a subscription, your mortgage is a subscription. If you stop paying any of these, then you're not going to have it. It's simple as that. So as long as the price is a manageable number that you could deal with, what are we talking? A couple ticks, just take one trade, and that's it. Make a couple ticks, and it'll pay for it. But if you're able to have a smaller number, then you don't feel that you're kind of getting gypped, if you will. And the way I look at it is, sure, I'll give you the trial and all that business, but if you've had it for a month and you're like, yeah, I don't like this, do you really feel that you got taken advantage? It's $34.95, so I personally feel better. I don't feel I took advantage of anybody. If you didn't like it, I'm sorry for that, but it is what it is. So the regular price is $49.95, but until Wednesday, I'm gonna put this on for 30% off, so it's gonna be $34.95, and that subscription will just stay that way until you turn it off, and you control it. It goes through PayPal, so you go into your PayPal dashboard and you go under your subscriptions, and you just stop it whenever you're ready. Just stop it. No hard feelings, and you control it. With Helix right now, we're still, I'm charging $19.95. I was charging $0 for quite some time. I mean, technically, I don't charge anything for Helix right now, because it's still, I feel it's not where I want it to be just yet. It's good enough, but not that good where I want it to be. So I don't even have a price on that right now. I don't even know what I would price it at, to be honest with you. But everybody in the world wanted it for nothing, and that's why I came up with beta maintenance, because then it separates, it just separates the people who are just, not really interested in it, because I'm more than happy to spend all my time on it, but I mean, come on, you got to put in something to the game. So I just added that monthly maintenance fee, and that'll eventually stop. But at this point, I don't know what I'm charging on that. So that's that one. And the status box, that's free right now. I've turned the trial period all the way to the end of September, and quite frankly, I probably will move that until October 15th. Because I'm kind of waiting on a few other pieces and some additions that I want. So it's, again, not, like 90%, but not 100%. So, and again, I'm not sure what this eventually will go away, this beta fee kind of thing, or I'll put a small beta fee back on there. It was $9.95. I'll put a beta fee back on there again. But through September right now, it's nothing. So if you have a trial, or if you've had a trial and maybe you've had it in the past and you want to extend it, you will have to let me know, manually, because I'll have to do it. I'll have to turn you on internally within Ninja system. If you've already had it, if you've not had it, then just download it, and it'll just get you through that time. Other than that, so this for Discipline Manager, as I mentioned earlier, it will cancel out. I'm going to turn it off on Wednesday, and what we do here for that is just go to contacts. We do need, as I mentioned, I do need a third-party ID. There's a little video on that. Under, if we go back to any of the pages, it has down the bottom under videos, it has a how-to. It's about a 1-minute video. Basically, go to your control center and put in Tremper as the name, and it has to be case sensitive, a certain capital T, and you put in whatever you want. Now, some people, I personally like, I mean, you can put in whatever you want, but you can't double up your numbers though, but I like what it is. I like to call it what it is. So if that's a Commodore 64 or a Tandy 1000 or office computer or bedroom laptop or HP 360, whatever it might be, I like to do that. That way, it's, if you ever call or if you want to tweak or you want to change it, you know exactly what machine you're dealing with when you've identified it like that. So that's how you would get your machine ID, and then from there you just this case sensitive thing I was saying, it has to be like that. So again, control center, third party licensing, Tremper, and then you can just do whatever you want. I'm kind of aging myself there when I say Commodore 64 and Tandy 1000 because that goes back a ways. Some of you might realize that. And then in the contact form, as I showed just a second ago right here, you would need that number in there, and just give us that number with your name, rank, serial number, and all that, and we'll get you set up. So other than that, I think that just gives a brief overview. And if anybody has any questions or comments, you guys are more than welcome to join our. Now, Discord, to be honest with you, is new. I'm new to Discord myself, so I still don't know how to navigate around it. Skype room's been going on for a while. There's a couple hundred guys, or I think 100 and something guys in there, and gals too. Mostly guys though. That just help each other out. Chit chat. Hey, anybody have any good things for that, or setting, or anybody have anything regarding trading, trade like-minded people, kind of thing. So you're more than welcome. Those are all free, just a social, one big trader social gathering. I wanted to call it happy hour, but we took a little vote and everybody said social hour. I did a little poll and everybody said social hour was better, but I still like happy hour. Anyway, those are all found under the community tab. Rob, I don't know if there's any questions because I'm not looking at the chat and I don't even know where to find it.
If you hit the little down arrow next to questions, or next to questions, it'll populate something. Not a lot of relevant questions have been asked because I'm looking at it, but if you would like to open the floor and answer a couple, that would probably be amazing.
Yeah, that's what this is all about. I'd be happy to. If the other presenter would like to come in a little earlier, I don't want to take all their time, but I'm more than willing to white screen. I hope my slides was coming over.
No, your slide. No, that's the very beginning. You want to scroll way down to the bottom of it.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'm scrolling down here. Okay, I'm seeing it now.
You're getting asked, is it only for Ninja? Do you have any professionals using any of these?
Yes. I don't know where that is. I see a whole bunch of chats here, so you can help me out, Rob. But yes, it is for Ninja. This was done long before Trade of 8 or whatever, they merged with that or bought them out or whatever the case. Then I did have my very first indicator was done in Ninja 7, and then I had to get that converted over to Ninja 8, and from that point forward it was 8, and 8's going to be it. I don't have any desire or question on again, these are for me. I'm not really, it's not like I'm trying to sell thousands of copies. I made these for me, and I trade with Ninja, so it's on Ninja. Now, we can get that done on another platform, TradeStation or whatever. If you would like to pay for that, I'd be more than willing to, deal with the programmer, and I'm sure my programmer would be more than happy to take on that thing. But you're going to need, some deep pockets. So anyway, another question you said was about Ninja. What was the other one you said? Professionals. Yes, I have. There's a couple people that have. I don't know if they're legally called hedge funds or traders or whatever, but they trade for other people. So I know they're they have multiple copies because they run them on multiple machines, and I do know they're in the business to trade people's money. So I don't know if they're officially called hedge funds or brokers, or I know they're not brokers, but whatever. But the answer to your question is yes. And I've asked them on the conversation, actually not that long ago, and that was, has it ever, what do you use and how do you use it and how does it work? And what they do is they just have it running in the background, and the bots pretty much take care of it themselves. But if they're running at night, and sometimes they run them at night, different markets, different customers, whatever the case may be. And I had another guy was running it at night too, and I says, well, has it ever helped you out? And he says, yeah, there's been times that we come in and it's off, it's not doing it, and we don't know what happened. You've got to investigate why, but that's fine. So it's kind of like more of a security blanket, if you will, if things get out of hand, especially with all these bots. Now, the one thing I'll mention about Discipline Manager bots, and that is if you or your bot is using a market order, there is no suppression with Ninja right now. I know that there's tickets in, it's been in for years, and it's not obviously a high thing for them. But the moral of the story is that if you put on an order, it will stop the order. If you put it, let's say you put a limit order here, and you've breached your goals, you're not going to trade, it'll take it off. In a millisecond, you put it on, it comes right off. On a market order, so now you think you're going to be faster than it is. So now you say, okay, well, I could beat this thing. So you click you put a market order in, and it takes the order, and then a millisecond later, it comes right off, and all you're left with is possible slippage and a commission. And you're like, well, wow, I must do it faster. So you click the button, it goes market order, and it comes right off, and you've got another commission. It takes you maybe 2 or 3 times to realize, I guess I can't do that. So if you have a bot that is taking market orders, then if it doesn't get shut off, there's a component in it that sometimes shuts off the bot. Like if it gets stopped externally, it'll stop the bot. But if your bot has that on there that it won't do that, it'll just keep taking market order. It'll see that it's flat, take the market order. Then just Discipline Manager will take it off. Your bot says it's empty and it's flat, so it can take an order, throws in a market order. Discipline Manager takes it right back out, and you can just ratchet yourself, and the broker's just loving it and laughing. So you have to watch out for that. So that would be the concern that you have, because there is no way right now in Ninja to suppress that, according to them, and that's where we're at. So as far as the professionals, you got to watch that. What else was on there? I think I covered that topic. Is that mine? What are the periods on these charts? What are the time frames and candles? I think that must be for the other presenter, right?
If you check the time that they were asked, I believe those were asked to Norman.
Oh, yeah, okay. So I'm
I think you've got all the questions, though.
Okay. And, well, I'm right on time then, too, so that works out really well.
Now you're about 5 minutes early, but I think we can cover it. But Steve, as always, I love having you on Traders Corner. I love your programs. We want to thank you for being here. And ladies and gentlemen, if your emotions are getting in the way of your trading, Mr. Tremper at Tremper.com has the solution for you. It's called the Discipline Manager. You can learn more by a link that I'm going to put in the chat box, or you can visit him at www.Tremper.com. His tools have been a game changer for so many traders that struggle with overtrading and many other emotional issues that we commonly face. Thanks again, Steve, for one, filling the time, and two, making our audience a great, generous offer, and joining us today. I wish you a great weekend. I hope you enjoy the rest of it, and we look forward to seeing you again here on Traders Corner.
Thanks, Rob.
You're very welcome.